Children, we will continue with the chapter Heat and Energy. And today we will discuss Hope's experiment. Basically, this experiment demonstrates that water has higher density at 4 degrees Celsius than at 0 degree Celsius. The volume of liquids is dependent on their current temperature. In general, liquids increase their volume with increasing temperature and its density necessarily decrease while conserving mass. However, in the temperature range from 0 degrees Celsius to 4 degrees Celsius, opposite happens. Hope's device consists of a hollow cylinder which is filled with water and allows two thermometers to be inserted at different heights through two holes on the side. That means there is an upper thermometer and a lower thermometer. In the halfway of its height, the cylinder is fitted with an outside reservoir for a cooling mixture. Cooling mixture consists of crushed ice and salt. Salt is added to lower the melting point of ice. This reservoir is no way connected to the inside of the cylinder. So there are two thermometers, T1 and T2. There is a cooling mixture or known as freezing mixture. So that is the construction part of the Hope's device. What happens when water is poured into the inner cylinder? Then both the thermometers show same temperature. Now when the reservoir is filled with a cooling mixture, then we will have to observe the development of temperature measured by the thermometer. This is the main objective of the experiment. So what we will see initially, that the thermometers are showing the same temperature. After some time, the temperature shown by the lower thermometer, which is T1. This is T1 and this is the graph for T1, the second graph, the lower graph. It slowly falls to 4 degrees Celsius as shown in the graph, while the upper thermometer T2 remains almost the same during this time. Now as soon as the temperature of the thermometer T1, the lower one, reaches 4 degrees Celsius, after that the upper thermometer T2 slowly goes down to 0 degree Celsius as shown in the graph. The second, that means the upper thermometer's final temperature is 0 degrees Celsius, while the lower thermometer T1, its final temperature is 4 degrees Celsius. The final temperature for T1, 4 degrees Celsius. Final temperature for T2, 0 degree Celsius. Now after some time, what will happen? A thin crust of ice is formed on the surface of water, especially in this region. Why? Because T2, which is the upper thermometer, reaches 0 degrees Celsius, and 0 degrees Celsius is the freezing point of water. So let's understand why this is happening. This was our observation. So basically the goal of this experiment is to demonstrate that between 0 degrees Celsius and 4 degrees Celsius, the density of water increases with the increase in temperature. And that is the explanation part, that how the density of water increases with the increasing in temperature, and why the two thermometers show different values on their scale. So what happens, children? After adding the cooling mixture, the water at the center or the middle of the cylinder cools down over here in this region, and therefore the density increases. As soon as the density increases, the water over here at the center will sink down to the bottom or the lower section of the cylinder and fills up with cold water, and the temperature of the water in this region decreases. And this happens by convection process. So by convection of water, the lower part cools, and so the reading of the lower thermometer T1 falls rapidly, while the temperature of the upper thermometer T2 does not change. Because temperature and density of upper part of the thermometer doesn't change, so there is no change in the temperature. The water in the upper part is still at the room temperature. This situation changes when the lower half of the cylinder fills up with water which is approximately at 4 degrees Celsius. That means the water in the lower part, the temperature of the water of the lower part of the cylinder reaches its temperature 4 degrees Celsius, and at 4 degrees Celsius the density of water is maximum. So this is the region of water which has maximum density at this particular point of time. But because of the presence of the cooling mixture, the water is constantly being cooled. So subsequent cooling of water to the temperatures lower than 4 degrees Celsius at the central portion leads to decrease in the density because of anomalous expansion of water, and this cold water therefore accumulates at the upper part of the cylinder. Now because of the density which is decreasing and the water is rising due to convection current, the temperature of the thermometer T2 rapidly decreases all the way to 0 degree Celsius. So by convection process, the movement of water takes place, and that is what is shown in the graph. That initially the lower thermometer shows a drop while the upper one remains almost the same. The lower thermometer reaches the temperature 4 degrees Celsius and then it becomes constant. There is no change in the thermometer, the temperature of the thermometer. After that, T2, which is the upper thermometer, starts showing a rapid fall in the temperature, and finally the temperature of the upper thermometer reaches 0 degrees Celsius, and as soon as this happens, a thin crust of ice starts forming at the cylindrical vessel, because 0 degrees Celsius is the freezing point of the water. So that is the Hope's experiment.